What's up, Runes of Ede community? It's Kyle from Hermit Style, back with another Runes of Ede opening. This one's going to be real similar to our one last time. We do have some more demo decks today, the last two remaining demo decks for both the Intellects and the Mystics. And some foils to get into, see what we got. So I'm excited to do that. If you watched my last video, you know these gold-edged foils are definitely something pretty unique that I've never seen before, and I really love them. So we're hoping to see some cool hits today. So without further ado, bust this bad boy open, see what we got. Ooh, unlike last time, the last ones I got came in basically just like an alpha test box where they were labeled what faction they were. We actually have some art this time around. So got all sides of the box have art. We got some card art, you know, the art by One Heart Graphic House. You got the Intellects demo deck alpha down the side here, so you still have it labeled of what the contents are itself, but that's a pretty cool upgrade from the last time. You see it comes shrink wrapped here, but getting to showcase some of the art here is pretty cool. Was not expecting that to be coming out like that. And we do have unique art for each faction too. It is specifically unique to the faction, which is a pretty cool upgrade, I would say. Oh, and looks like we got a foil rune this time. Go ahead and discard our wrapper here. Let's go ahead and go. We're gonna go Mystics first. We're gonna save Intellects for last. Some favoritism, as it might be. Snip this corner off, get us in there. Ooh, it's even like a glossy finish to the box. It feels real nice for just being a kind of a cardboard packaging, but definitely higher quality than I would have expected. A little bit more solid than the last box for sure. So first we got our runes. Got our 9 basics. We got, looks like 3 ancient runes of permanence. Looks like we got 2 ancient runes of pestilence. And 3 ancient runes of penance. And then the last is 1 copy of the ancient rune of beyond. So go ahead and get those off to the side here. Then we got our good old abrupt end. Looks like that's what we got for the box art there. We got our 3 copies of that. Get your instant spells. We got our 3 copies of From the Beyond. Got our 3 copies of Shad. Good old Squadron Hawk for our Magic players, basically. We got our first copy of Wisp, this being the Reaper one. Then we got the other 1-drop Wisp, the one that lets you rearrange your stockpile. We have 2 copies of that Wisp the Playful. We got 2 copies of the event Painful Choice. Cards now like an instant spell rather than like an attached type of enchantment effect. Definitely been interesting to see that card change throughout the phases of playtesting, but this card is pretty cool now. Definitely will be excited to get cast on that. We got our 3 copies of the 2-drop Mystic Looting event. We got our 1 2-drop Shad Joiner of Forces. We got 2 of the Vans, the permanent to let you basically double Reaper triggers. We got 3 copies of the 2-drop Vera Mystic Warrior. There he is right there, the man, the myth, the legend. Our 3-drop Zap, definitely a staple card. Definitely helps the deck function here for Mystics. Then we got our 2 copies of the 3-drop Veda. Then we got our 2 copies of the 3-drop Vera. We got our Dregs, definitely a good card to be bringing back with your reanimation spells. Stop some of those bombs in bigger colors. Also give you that recursion effect from when he's removed. Our good old Victor lets you look at your opponent's hand, rip a card, make them draw. Definitely a strong effect that you can utilize with this deck, especially if you know what you're playing around, whether that be Marvels having their 8-drop Jeds, their threats they're trying to ramp to, holding this card till the turn before those threats would come down. Definitely powerful. We got our 3 copies of the Unnatural Summoning. Here's a good old bomb right here. We got 2 5-drop Vedas. Basically Massacre Girl for all intents and purposes for people who've played Magic. Yeah. So you can go and chain to removal effects. I had to make sure that was the correct Veda. I couldn't remember the art off the top of my head there. We got our 2 6-drop Vans. Definitely one of the most powerful cards in the Mystic archetypes. Looks like we do have 2 copies of Rune Shift in here to let you reuse those special runes. Then this card, Rune Desecrator, this is probably the one deck that I've seen this card really do work in. Being able to reanimate Rune Desecrator with some of your effects like Van is definitely powerful. You can kind of put your opponent in some difficult situations, pulling this back and forth, using your effects to place it in the discard pile and then reanimating it. It's pretty powerful. We got our turn structure card like we had before, letting you detail kind of the rules of the game. And then we got our art cards. They're just solo sided, but we have our 4 different art cards here for our kind of poster characters for the faction. Alright. And certainly not the least for last here, we do have the Intellects. I would say this definitely started as my favorite faction in the game. I definitely had a great time playtesting Marvels though, so there's a little bit more contest here after some of those Marvel hits though. Some of the Intellect stuff definitely looking powerful, and it might be what I think is the most powerful faction at this point in time, so I'll probably be putting quite a bit more time back into the Intellects here going forward from this point on. Starting it off with our Ancient Runes, we do have 2 Ancient Runes of Restoration. We have 2 Ancient Rune of the Mind. We have our 2 Ancient Runes of Renewal. And 3 copies of Ancient Rune of Reverence. Then following that is our 9 basic runes, of course, to make our full stockpile. And starting off with the 1-drops, we do have our trusty 1-drop Phillips, playing on turn 1, letting you research 1. We're going to have 2 copies of the 1-drop Dean. That's the cheapest keyword mastery you'll ever find. Obviously, it also lets you rummage when you break a rune. Definitely a powerful card. We do have 2 of the 1-drop Mauls. Haven't really tested this card a whole lot yet. That is a relatively new addition, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out. We do have our 3 copies of Deception, our 3 copies of Calculation, those cheap spells to trigger your effects. Keep things moving, keep things recycling with your intellect abilities. We do have our 3 copies of Rain. We do have our Dig Through the Archives, get you some draws. We do have our 2 copies of Sue, Spirit of Intellects. Here we go with our 2 copies of Zack, the next step up on the mastery totem pole, as it were. Of course, you gotta have your Way of the Intellects, gotta have your counterspell. We are blue after all. We do have our 3 copies of the Last Ditch Effort. Our Dragon Ball Super players are gonna feel, that relation to Bergamo there, exhausting 2 of your opponents, in this case units. Definitely a strong play. You can cycle it back with some of your effects too. Playing that card instant speed off your flash creatures more or less is pretty powerful. We have our 4-drop Phillip. This card is an absolute menace in this game. Anyone who's played against or with much Intellects is probably painfully aware of that. On play, you're researching 4, drawing 1, so that's really giving you card selection for what you want a lot of the times. And then when he's removed too, you do ready 2 runes, so it just lets you play a ton of things based off what you find, and when he's removed, you do get some tempo on tap as well. So definitely a powerful card. A lot of times I almost feel like leaving this unchecked if my opponent hasn't played, just so they're not able to play a second copy to give them more filtering, especially if you're on the back foot. Giving them what they exactly need to finish the game definitely can be a painful situation. We do have our 3 copies of the 4-drop Ramus. Man has critical, then you do get to ready a rune after you use your first event each turn. Definitely a card I still need to test a little bit more. It was kind of a newer addition as well. And on play, you do get to bounce a target unit your opponent controls. So pretty interesting tempo play. Comes down, presents a pretty big critical body. Bouncing your opponent's threat as well. Definitely a good way to tempo out versus some of the decks that are trying to go low on you, such as Savages. Just gotta be mindful of those bounce type of effects when they're on play effects. But the fact that you can start to ready runes from your 1-drop spells basically being free the first time each turn is definitely a pretty powerful effect that you can manipulate. We do have our 2 copies of Dean. Another card here with the critical keyword. Lets you push damage in the late game, especially once you start to get the rest of your opponent's units. Hard Reset. Card has awesome art. For a long time I was playing with the print play that didn't have art for this card. I'm really happy with how the art turned out. It's a pretty sweet card, cool effect, and I really appreciate the art on that one. So happy to see that one in full living color now, as it were. Of course, we have our Zax. This card certainly turning the tide. Little Easter egg for our DBS family there, but card does not lie. He turns the tide of the game pretty quickly. Definitely a powerful effect. You got mastery, you got critical, getting to cast spells for free, whether that be just a number of things, letting you just slam last ditch efforts on your opponent to take down their last lines of defense, get in there for a game. Card closes quite a few matches. 6-drop Ramus, definitely another big threat, gets you through that late game. Really start crushing through there. Then looks like we do have a couple more small units towards the back here. We do have our 3 copies of the 2-drop Mai. She does bounce units 2 or less. We have 1 copy of Archive Editor, it looks like. A little bit of a strange card. The art always had me laugh. It reminds me of the glasses from the dude from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. The one Goomba does have glasses like this, and it just makes me laugh every time because that's all I can think of when I look at that art. We do have 1 copy of Rune Desecrator in this deck as well, looks like. Our turn structure card, and then last but not least, we got our 4 art cards. Ooh, there we go. There's our last, or a Hard Reset art right there. Got your way of the Intellects counterspell, the 1-drop man, and the Mai. So pretty sweet there. Definitely some good choices on the art cards, if I say so myself there. Go ahead and get these out of the way as well. Fix the way the orientation there later. We'll get those all sleeved up, put into our decks. Let's check out what we have been waiting for. We keep seeing more and more photos of foils coming out, getting handed out at cons. Happy I could get my order placed here and get my hands on some foils for especially Intellects. Really been enjoying Intellects, so having some blue foils, I'm sure I'll get a lot of mileage out. It's pretty sweet. First of all, we're gonna start off here. We're gonna go back to front here. Looks like we have a 2-drop Van. That's definitely a cool foil. I think there's only 2 in the deck, so this gives me the 3rd copy for our deck. Definitely a card we'll be playing as often as we can, more or less. We do have a foil copy of the Sue here for Intellects. I think that was also a card we only had 2 of in the deck, so having a 3rd copy is going to be helpful. And I do want to mess with this card a little bit more. It does have a choose 1 effect now. There's not too many cards that do have choose 1 effects, but this is one of them. So on play, you can basically peek your opponent's hand, or you can exhaust a target unit. So definitely cool to have a modal card, as well as it having that ability, that permanent for each player to play with the top card of their stockpile revealed. Lets you kind of definitely see what's going on. Let you make the choice with your modes, and potentially abuse with some of your effects that you recycle and add to your stockpile. We do have a 3-drop copy of the Vera Malicious Impact. Also a pretty cool card. Interesting with the removal effects of you dropping your hand and drawing 2, so it does give you like a discard outlet, but it does give you some tempo from drawing. Can be interesting depending on what point of the game you played in, but definitely cool. If you do get to break units with it, you can shred your opponent's hand too, so Probably a card that's going to require some build around or some setup, but can definitely be powerful under the right circumstance. Ooh, we have a foil Ancient Rune. I don't think I have any of those yet. So we do have our foil Ancient Rune of Reverence here. This one is pretty cool too. If you have less units than your opponent, I had to check the effect here because the art I think on this has changed since the initial. They do all have their own unique art now, the Ancient Runes, which wasn't always the case. But this is the one that does let you bounce an opponent's unit with cost 2 or less as long as you control less. Definitely a good card to be having versus savages and things like that. That is a good one to try to abuse potentially as well. Keep you alive in those rushdown matchups. We do have a foil copy of the 2-drop Shad. This is the one that lets you put units back in your stockpile to potentially reuse those ancient rune effects you've been building around, or just whichever one might be the most powerful in the matchup. Say it gets flipped early, you like to get an extra activation of it, get it back in the deck so you can have a cheap activation of it, things like that. Definitely some cards that are going to be helpful, especially with multicolor too. You can try to fix your colors and things too, so definitely a good card to have. And then the basic Intellect rune we had off the front there. So 2 Intellect foil runes, definitely cool. Going to be sleeving those up for sure. We'll have to see if we like Sue in the deck. I think I have some copies in my current iterations of Intellects. That being said, if anyone does want to see any deck profiles, I definitely would be open to doing that. I haven't taken the time to sit down and do that yet. I was kind of waiting for the rest of my physical cards here for these demo decks to come in to really sleeve up what I got, take stock of my lists. The last couple cards get added. In the most recent playtesting things, print and play update, I hadn't really tested with too much yet, so I wanted to make some additions. Try to get some games before I locked in, maybe put out some sort of preliminary lists for what I've been messing with, and looking forward to getting some games in. I know we were throwing around the idea of having some maybe some webcam nights or some webcam events, so have to see what pops up in the Discord. But if anyone's interested in lists or whatever, or talking lists, I'll probably try to get those figured out here and either toss some videos or some images up in the Discord. If you're not yet in the Runes of Ede Discord, check it out. You can find all the latest print and plays. There's rules questions being asked in there. Obviously, you got your rules documents and your resources for the game. Trying to do our best to update that kind of stuff as questions come in, whether that be from the devs straight up, some of the play testers, or just making things clear that if it becomes evident that people have questions or don't understand how stuff works. The game is still kind of a living, breathing, developing system at this point, so I certainly have had a lot of fun interacting with it through all the steps I've been involved with so far, and I'd like to get to continue that and meet everyone as we all continue to check out this sweet game and see where it goes. Other than that, thank you for your time, guys. Hope you appreciated this opening. I'm definitely excited to get these foils sleeved up, get some games in with them, and I hope to see you in the Runes community. Have a good day.